Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review, and today we are looking at the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Dino Megazord by Hasbro. Alright, so the gimmick with this figure is that it's kind of like a throwback, retro kind of deal. The package design's kind of made to somewhat resemble an old VHS cassette tape box. You know, there's kind of like that little groove here where if you're old enough to remember a VHS tape, you know, you'd grab the tape at the bottom, you know, with your thumb and your finger and just slide it out. So this is kind of like a throwback to that. The figure here, they show a picture of it over here in the back of the box. It looks very, very, it looks very basic. That's all I can say. I haven't handled one of these yet, so this is going to be the first time. I have my reservations about it. Generally, I'd be excited about a toy like this, but this thing was a little bit on the pricey side. I bought this at one of my local Walmarts maybe like a week or two ago, and I think I bought it for like either $14.99 or $15.99. And I remember at the time I was looking at it, I'm like, I don't know if I want this, but I'm a big fan of the Dino Megazord. For me, this was, my original, Zord. The Dino Megazord was my Zord. I was probably a little bit too old at the time. I think I was like freshman in college when Power Rangers first came out. But I used to watch it all the time, like in between classes or if I was just bored or whatever. So I do have fond memories of this era of Power Rangers. This Zord specifically, and I do have a couple of Dino Megazords in my collection. So I couldn't turn this away, even though it looked very, very generic and basic. But we're going to unbox this and see for ourselves, whether or not this is worth the price I paid for it. All right, so in terms of the box design, it's awesome. I love the illustration here. I love the novelty gimmick of how this is supposed to somewhat emulate a VHS cassette tape box, especially with these kind of little grooves at the bottom. All right, so let's take this out. I'm so torn, to be honest. I don't know if I actually want to rip the box open at the bottom like you're supposed to. Like over here, it's perforated, and you're supposed to rip this so you can pull the tape out or pull out, this box from underneath like you're supposed to. But at the same time, I really don't want to damage this. I don't know. I'm just crazy or something. So I might cheat. And I might just cut the tape and just take it out from the top. So forgive me. I know this is the wrong way of doing it, but I really don't want to wreck this box. So let's cheat and let's just open up the toy from the top of the box up here. I'm just going to slice the tape very carefully. And let's hopefully I could remove the figure by doing it like this. Okay, there's a little sheet of paper. It's illegal. It's like the normal legal copyright stuff, in multi languages. All right, so from what I'm seeing here, the figure looks like it's wrapped in like tissue paper. This isn't anything new. We've seen this before with Hasbro and their Fortnite stuff. They're trying to be a little bit more environmentally conscious. So instead of giving us plastic wrapping and plastic windows on the boxes, they're trying to provide us with things that are a little bit more biodegradable. And let's see if I can remove it. Yeah, so here's the fake VHS tape that you remove from the box. I kind of like this. This is very, this is very, very 80s and 90s. If you grew up during this time period, you'll remember the VHS tapes. And then if you had to record the show yourself, and because you're too cheap to buy like the official, like real legit VHS tape, you just record it after school on your own VHS tape. Slap on the sticker label, and I think it's very cute how, Dino Megazord, and there's that. And this is me being a a VHS tape nerd. You know, not all VHS tapes were created equal. Some tapes had longer a recording time than others, and this looks like to me this might be a T90 or a T120. I might be wrong on that though, but that's just the VHS nerd in me talking. It's cool because they know that since the figure's a lot taller than this one VHS tape, they're going to stack it, pretend there's two. And it's cool how it's written in different fonts on the top and bottom, so it looks a little bit more authentic. You know, Volume 1 and Volume 2. That's awesome. I'm liking that a lot. Alright, so let's take a look at the figure itself. Okay, it's wrapped up in all this tissue paper. We have the sword. All right, so this is weird, to be honest. All right, let's go back to the sword real quick. I'll take a look at the sword before we look at the figure. The sword's nice, clean detail. It's kind of like a light gray. As you can see, there's some pretty intricate sculpting above the handle or the hilt. It's a softer, rubbery plastic, so it's not you don't have to worry about snapping this off at the handle. It's very flexible. That's a plus in my book. Now for the figure itself, it's odd because when I first picked it up and handled it, my first thought was this feels a little bit more quality than I expected, but at the same time it feels, not that it feels cheap, but it does kind of suffer a little bit from that shampoo bottle, you know, toy syndrome. I'm really conflicted on this. The sculpting is actually really well done. The sculpting is nice. It's really crisp. Like if you looked at this, you'd swear that this is a sticker, but this is actually sculpted. You can actually feel the relief on these details. The paint job here on the shoulders is superb. The silver that they use on the chest, it's a little bit on the transparent side. I wish it was a little bit more opaque because it kind of lacks the punch of like a really, really bright silver. It almost looks like you can see through it and see the red plastic underneath. Likewise, on the head, the silver could use a little bit more punch. But I'm kind of surprised a little bit in terms of how this feels. It feels like, for me, what a Transformers RED figure should have felt like. Now, if you've handled any of the Walmart exclusive Transformers RED, the robot enhanced design figures, those kind of had much more of a softer, rubbery plastic feel to them. Whereas for parts of this is like hard, rigid plastic. And surprisingly enough, I think it works. It brings out the details it makes them look a little bit more sharper, a little bit more crisp. But at the same time, there's something about this where it doesn't feel like this should be, I don't know, $15. Like, I don't know. This should have, the price point feels a little bit high for me. I really feel this should have been priced like at, it feels a bit more quality than something that you paid $10 for, but at $15 it seems like it's a little bit too much. So for me, the ideal price point of this guy should have been at least like $12.99. It sounds kind of trivial, but you know, I think pricing something at $12.99 versus $14 or $15.99, you know, you're saving a couple more bucks, but at the same time, I think it reflects the quality of this figure. Not that the figure is bad, but it's not superb or great. Detail-wise, the sculpting is pretty solid and spot on. No complaints there. Like I mentioned, the paint application could use a little bit more punch. You know, it gets kind of a little bit more bare minimum as you get to the legs. You know, it doesn't seem like the attention to detail in terms of the paint is that high as opposed to like the upper torso. You know, it would have been nice if they colored in the eyes of the Zords and maybe some of these other details. If you're a customizer, you'll have a field day with this thing. I can see so many opportunities for making this thing, you know, really shine. Articulation-wise, this guy's head rotates. There is no up or down movement. Arms rotate. They can go out like this. I think the shoulder armor is articulated, which is nice. No elbow articulation. There is movement at the wrist. No waist articulation. The legs. It's one thing I noticed is that the legs can actually drop down. It's really tight though. I'm not gonna do it here. Oh yeah, there you go. So you could drop the leg down like I did there. You could push it back up. Unfortunately, they can't really kick forward because of the nature of the design. You know, it's not going to kick past this. No articulation at the knees. The Zords do not come apart. So you're just strictly looking at a simple action figure. And when I say simple, this is as simple as they come. No ankle articulation, so very, very basic. Now this is a good, I think more so for me, a good display piece. You know, it's not gonna like replace any Megazord you have in your collection. It's very, very bare minimum. Height wise, you're looking at a figure that stands at roughly a little under 7 inches tall. Now, yes, like I said, I'm torn because I think the price point is like $1 or $2 too high, but at the same time that as I'm handling this, I'm feeling a little bit conflicted because in all honesty, I wouldn't mind getting the other figures. It's just the price point that bothers me. You know, is this a premium collectible? No. It's as bare minimum as you can get. It does have Hasbro quality, so you know this thing does not feel like it's like, you know, some like janky bootleg. It's decent. I think this is one of those questionable purchases. If you're a diehard, you might want this. If you're a casual fan, it might be an easy pass. You might have better options. And since we're speaking of smaller versions of the Dino Megazord, some of you might remember this. This is kind of like somewhat of a small jump into the time machine. So this is not a Power Rangers Lightning collection. This was actually, I think this was Power Rangers, might have been Legacy. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, so this was the Power Rangers Legacy collection, and this was produced by Bandai before, you know, Hasbro had the license. So the cool thing about this figure, especially for the Mighty Morphin line, is that with the original Power Rangers, each one came with a specific piece of the Dino Megazord. So it was essentially a Build-A-Figure. Excuse me. So you'd collect all the different Rangers. And it says right here, each Ranger came with a specific piece. The red came with the head and the chest. Pink Ranger came with one of the arms. Black, blue, and yellow came with different limbs. And once you assemble this, the figure would be roughly maybe like 7 or 8 inches tall. And as you can see here, the chest piece right here, it's slightly a larger scale than this one here. So I'm guessing the final product, once assembled, would probably be anywhere between 8 and 9 inches. You can tell this guy was ball jointed. And already looking at the back of the box, it looks like it's a lot more articulated than this guy. The proportions are a little bit more on the dynamic cartoon side. Whereas this one's, the proportions are much bulkier, resembling how it looks like in the live action. So, you know, if you're in the hunt for a smaller Dino Megazord, this could be an option. You know, it's a little bit on the pricier side, because hunting these figures down is, you know, that's going to cost you some money. This line of figures came out back in 2018. which doesn't seem right to me. It seems like that's a little bit more recent than it should be. But yeah, these came out back in 2018. If you can hunt these down, you know, hunt down the original 5, you could build this guy up. And this guy's going to be bigger and more articulated than this. And these were a great line of action figures also. You know, everyone loves the Lightning collection, rightfully so, the great figures. But, you know, the Bandai stuff, you know, it's nothing to sneeze at. I think these are quality figures also. Alright, so let's wrap this up. Is this something you should buy? Like I said, you know, it depends. If you're a casual fan, you might want to pass on it. If you're a diehard, I could picture you being enticed to buy it. If you are, at least pick up one, and then you can reserve judgment then. All right, wrapping this video up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're a returning, excuse me, I'm like dying here. If you're a returning subscriber or viewer, thank you so much for your continued likes, comments, and support. I greatly appreciate it. So until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. All right, later.